invitation went out to 600 people. Adeyemi had insisted on 500. Chief Adeyemi had quietly added another 100 in the second week of planning when he realized he had forgotten the entire Adeyemi extended family network from Ibadan. Kim Song-hyun had flown in from Seoul for the planning meeting and sat at the Ikoyi dining table with both parents going through the guest list and said nothing until the number reached 612, at which point he said, in the specific calm of a man who has hosted significant things, that in Korea they would call this a small gathering and he had people who could assist with the logistics. Chief Adeyemi had looked at him over the guest list. Then assist, he said. Kim Song-hyun had nodded once and made a call to Seoul. The venue was Echo Hotel and Suites on Victoria Island, the largest most iconic event space in Lagos, the specific address that told every Lagos person who received the invitation that this was not a wedding. This was an event. The Grand Ballroom alone could seat 800. They were using the Grand Ballroom, the adjacent hall, the outdoor terrace overlooking the Atlantic, and the garden. The theme, Zara's decision, non-negotiable, announced to both mothers with the specific clarity of a woman who has spent 4 years finding her voice and is using it, was Afro-Korean. Not one or the other. Both. Simultaneously. A wedding that looked like both the people in it and neither of the countries trying to claim it. The colors were deep gold, burnt orange, and ivory, the colors of Lagos sunset and Korean silk simultaneously. The flowers were bird of paradise and Korean chrysanthemums, arranged by a florist from Yaba who had spent 3 weeks studying Korean floral arrangements and had arrived at something entirely her own. The food was a Lagos-Seoul collaboration that had required 4 planning calls between a caterer in Ikoyi and a chef flown in from Gangnam and had produced a menu that neither culture had seen before and both cultures immediately claimed. Jaewon, when shown the full wedding plan, had said, quietly, looking at the 17-page document, that he had come to Lagos to find her and had not expected to also find a second career as a wedding planning participant. She had told him to stop complaining and look at the seating chart. He had looked at the seating chart. He had then said nothing for a full minute. Then, your father put my father at his table. Yes. Next to your mother. Yes. Is that my father's idea, she said. My mother said nothing, which means she approved. He had looked at the seating chart for another moment. We are going to be fine, he said. We were always going to be fine, she said. Like, share, and subscribe so you never miss amazing stories like this. More unforgettable moments and exciting adventures are coming your way. I love you. The Adeyemi family house in Ikoyi had never contained this many women at 7 in the morning. Zara's bridal suite occupied the entire upper floor, the master bedroom converted, every surface covered with the specific organized chaos of a Lagos bridal morning. 4 bridesmaids. 2 makeup artists working simultaneously. A hairstylist who had flown in from Abuja because Adeyemi had refused to trust anyone else with her daughter's hair on this day. A photographer, not Zara, for once, someone else with the camera, which Zara found deeply disconcerting, moving through the room documenting everything. And Adeyemi, in the corner, watching all of it with the specific expression of a woman who has been planning this morning for 3 decades and is now inside it and is choosing not to cry yet because there is still too much to manage. Zara sat in the bridal chair while the hairstylist worked and looked at herself in the mirror and tried to locate the feeling she was supposed to be having, the specific cinematic bridal feeling she had seen described in films and had always slightly distrusted, and found, instead, something much simpler and much more hers. She was not nervous. She was not overwhelmed. She was sitting in a chair in her mother's house in Ikoyi while someone arranged her hair, and in a few hours she was going to marry the man who had argued with her about light in a Seoul gallery 8 years ago, and she was simply ready. 4 years of not having him. 3 parts of finding him again. 18 months of building something that could hold both of them. And she was ready. Her mother appeared beside her in the mirror. Close your eyes, Adeyemi said. Zara closed her eyes. She felt something cool against her neck, a chain, delicate, the specific weight of gold. A pendant settling against her collarbone. Her mother's hands at her nape fastening the clasp. Open, her mother said. She opened her eyes. In the mirror, at her throat, on a fine gold chain, a small pendant. A camera lens, rendered in gold. Tiny, precise, unmistakable. She had never seen it before. "Mummy, your father had it made," Adeyemi said. Her voice entirely steady. "2 months ago. He said, a photographer should have a camera at her wedding. Even if it is very small." Zara looked at the pendant in the mirror. At her mother standing behind her. At the room full of women and movement and mourning chaos around both of them. She cried. Briefly, quietly, while the makeup artist made a specific sound of professional alarm and reached for a tissue. Adeyemi squeezed her daughter's shoulder once. Then stepped back, composed, managing. The mourning continued. Jaewon had been dressed for 40 minutes and was sitting on the edge of the hotel bed looking at his hands. His best man, Park Junho, his oldest friend from Seoul, an architect who had flown in 3 days ago and had spent those 3 days being introduced to Lagos and appearing to be only partially recovering, was standing at the window looking out at the Atlantic and saying, "You know, most people are nervous at this point." "I'm not nervous," Jaewon said. "You've been staring at your hands for 40 minutes. I'm thinking, about what?" Jaewon looked at his hands. The paint-stained hands of a painter. Even today, the day of his wedding, there was a faint trace of cadmium blue at the edge of his left thumbnail from the canvas he had been working on yesterday morning. He had tried to scrub it off. It had not entirely come off. He had eventually decided that this was appropriate. "When she walked into that gallery in Seoul," he said, "and stood in front of that photograph, the Lagos market at dusk, I thought, whoever took that photograph sees the way I see. That was the first thing I thought. Before I even looked at her. The photograph told me something about the person and I was already, before I saw her face, already interested in whoever could make light do that." Park Junho turned from the window. "And then you saw her face." "And then I saw her face," Jaewon said. And I spent 3 months pretending I wasn't completely finished." Park Junho laughed. Then, more quietly, "She is extraordinary, Jaewon." "I know," Jaewon said. "You are going to be very happy." "I know that too." A knock at the door. A hotel staff member, the wedding coordinator, leaning in to say it was time. Jaewon stood up, straightened his jacket, looked at himself in the mirror. The dark navy traditional Korean darumaji coat over a crisp white shirt, dark slim trousers, the specific formal beauty of a Korean groom's traditional dress that had been Adeyemi's suggestion, delivered quietly at the second planning meeting in a way that had made Kim Song-hyun go very still for a moment before saying it was an excellent idea. Park Junho handed him the small box from the bedside table. Jaewon opened it. Inside, a ring. Simple. Gold. On the inside of the band, engraved in both Korean and Yoruba, "I did not forget you." He closed the box. "Let's go," he said. 612 people. The grand ballroom of Echo Hotel and Suites had been transformed into something that Lagos had not seen before and would talk about for years. The ceiling, 30 feet above the ballroom floor, was covered in a canopy of hanging flowers, bird of paradise and Korean chrysanthemums, thousands of them, in deep gold and burnt orange and ivory, cascading downward from the ceiling in dense fragrant falls that caught the light from the 150 pendant lights suspended among them. The entire ceiling was flowers. The entire ceiling was warm amber gold. The light coming through the flowers was the light that has been coming through the story since the beginning, the warm amber gold of the best things. The tables below, 60 tables of 10, were covered in deep gold tablecloths, the centerpieces tall architectural arrangements of the same flowers, white pillar candles between them casting warm amber light across 612 faces. Each place setting, a collaboration between a Lagos ceramicist and a Korean ceramics studio that had taken 3 months to agree on and had produced something entirely new and entirely beautiful. The aisle ran the full length of the ballroom, 200 feet of deep burgundy carpet runner with gold chrysanthemums scattered across it, the specific flowers that had been held beside her face in a Seoul market 8 years ago by a man who said he was seeing which was more striking. Nobody else in the room knew this. Both of them would know it when she walked in. The guests, 612 of them, were the specific Lagos crowd of a significant Adeyemi event, the city's business world, the political world, the creative world, the extended family networks of both the Adeyemis of Ikoyi and the Kim family's Lagos contacts who had grown significantly in the 18 months since the infrastructure contract resolution. And scattered through the crowd, the Seoul contingent, 40 people who had flown from Korea, who were experiencing Lagos for the first time and were visibly being transformed by it in real time. Kim Song-hyun sat at the head table, beside Chief Adeyemi, both silver-haired, both in formal attire, Chief Adeyemi in a magnificent deep burgundy and gold agbada, Kim Song-hyun in a dark charcoal suit with a single deep gold pocket square that was Adenyola's quiet suggestion and that he had accepted without argument. Both men surveying a ballroom that had been built by the specific combination of their two worlds and was more extraordinary for it. At one point Chief Adeyemi leaned toward Kim Song-hyun and said, in a voice that only Kim Song-hyun could hear over the ballroom music, "This was not what I planned for my daughter." Kim Song-hyun looked at the ballroom, at the flowers and the candles and the 612 people and the deep burgundy aisle runner with the gold chrysanthemums. "No," he said, "it is better." Chief Adeyemi was quiet for a moment. "Yes," he said, "it is." The music changed. The ballroom, 612 people, the flowers, the candles, the ambient conversation, went completely quiet in under 3 seconds. The specific silence of a room that has just understood that the most significant moment of the event is beginning. The grand ballroom doors at the far end of the aisle opened. And Zara Adeyemi, standing at 5 feet 11, on her father's arm, walked in. She wore a gown that had taken a Lagos designer and a Korean couturier 4 months to make, and the result was something that had never existed before. The base was ivory silk charmeuse, Lagos ivory, the specific warm ivory of the best Nigerian lace, cut to follow every curve of her tall deeply curved 5 feet 11 frame, a deep sweetheart neckline, the silk moving with her body as though it had been poured there. Over the silk, a layer of the most extraordinary Afro-Korean fabric, deep gold, woven in Lagos by the same family that had woven Adenyola's wedding fabric 30 years ago, draped as an overlay across the left shoulder and cascading to the floor in a train that was 6 feet long and caught every light in the room as it moved. And at the shoulders and along the sweetheart neckline, Korean embroidery in fine gold thread, the specific embroidery technique of the darumaji, the same embroidery that was on Jaewon's coat upstairs, now on her gown, now connecting both their formal dress in a visual thread that everyone in the room could see and only both of them fully understood. Her hair was down, long flowing body wave hair, thick, lustrous, falling in deep loose waves and soft curls past her shoulders and down her back, the Lagos ballroom light catching the waves in deep warm gold at the crown, the waves full and voluminous and entirely free. The small gold camera lens pendant at her throat, her father's gift, sitting against her deep ebony collarbone above the sweetheart neckline. Gold jewelry at her ears and wrists. Her face, her extraordinary regal face, the high dramatic cheekbones and the strong elegant jaw and the broad naturally beautiful nose and the full deep rose lips, bearing the specific expression of a woman who has made a decision 4 years in the making and is walking toward it on her father's arm through a room of 612 people and is not afraid of a single thing in it. Her skin was deep ebony, flawless, luminous, absolutely radiant, and the Lagos ballroom light, the 150 pendant lights through the canopy of flowers above, caught her deep ebony skin in the warmest, most extraordinary amber gold of the entire story. She was the most beautiful thing in the room. She was the most beautiful she had ever been in 3 parts and a wedding. She was walking toward him. Chief Adeyemi walked beside her, his walking stick in his right hand, his left arm linked through his daughter's right arm. His silver hair, his deep burgundy and gold agbada, his deep-set dark eyes looking straight ahead at the altar end of the aisle, not at the guests, not at the room, at the man standing at the end of the aisle waiting for his daughter. His expression, the expression of a man who spent 30 years turning love into strategy and spent a week in a hospital bed thinking about whether that was the right thing and is walking his daughter down an aisle of gold chrysanthemums toward a Korean painter in a darumaji coat and has decided, fully, finally, without reservation, that it is. 612 people watched her walk. The room was completely silent except for the music and the sound of the Afro-Korean train moving across the burgundy carpet runner. And at the altar end of the 200-foot aisle, Kim Jaewon. Standing at 5 feet 10 in his dark navy darumaji coat over a crisp white shirt, his dark hair falling across his forehead, his deep brown eyes, almost black even in the warm ballroom light, watching her walk toward him from the moment the doors opened. His hands were at his sides, not in his pockets, not folded, just at his sides, open. His expression. The expression that has been on his face since the night he stood in front of a Lagos market photograph in a Seoul gallery and found the person he did not know he had been looking for. The look. The specific look. The one he has always looked at her with. Unchanged. Present. Completely, entirely, only for her. She walked the full 200 feet. When she reached him. When Chief Adeyemi placed her hand in his and stepped back with his walking stick and the expression of a man who has just done something that cost him and is at complete peace with the cost, Jaewon looked at her for a long moment. The flowers above them, the 612 people around them, the candles, the Afro-Korean train, the gold camera lens pendant at her throat. He reached up and tucked a wave of her hair behind her ear. She caught his hand and held it against her face and closed her eyes. "Hi," he said, barely a sound, just for her. "Hi," she said back. The officiant began. They had written their own. This had been Zara's insistence and Jaewon's agreement and the specific terror of both of them for the 6 weeks leading up to the wedding, because the thing about writing your own vows is that you have to find words for the thing that has no adequate words. Jaewon went first. He held both her hands. He looked at her face. He spoke, his voice quiet and carrying in the specific way of a voice that does not need volume to reach the back of a room, and the room, 612 people, went even more still than it had been. "I saw your photograph before I saw your face," he said. A Lagos market at dusk. The light doing something I had never seen light do before. And I thought, whoever made this sees light the way I see light. And then I saw you. And I understood that you did not just see light. You are the light. You are the specific thing the light looks for. The room held its breath. "I let you walk through an airport gate once," he said. "I will not do that again. Not in this life. Not in any of the ones after it. You are the plan. You have always been the plan. And I am, completely, without reservation, with everything I have and everything I have made and everything I have not made yet, yours." The room exhaled. Zara looked at him, his dark eyes and his jaw and the darumaji coat and the paint-stained edge of his left thumbnail that had not entirely come off because he had been painting yesterday morning. And felt everything the story had put her through, 3 parts and a wedding and 4 years of distance and a New York bar and a Lagos hospital corridor and a garden under a mango tree and a kitchen table and a seating chart and 612 people. Felt all of it settle into the specific stillness of someone who has arrived. She took a breath. "I walked past that bar 3 times in the rain before I went in," she said. The room, those who knew the story, understood immediately. Those who did not know the story understood from the quality of her voice that this was important. "I told myself I was cold. I was lying to myself. I went in because I had run out of reasons not to go toward you. I have run out of reasons not to go toward you every day since. And I have stopped looking for them." She held his hands tighter. "You are the best photograph I have ever seen," she said, and somewhere in the room Park Junho made a sound that was probably not appropriate for a wedding ceremony but was entirely understandable, "and I have been taking your picture since the night we met because I knew even then that you were the kind of thing you needed to document before it disappeared. You did not disappear. You came back. You came to Lagos. You sat at my mother's kitchen table and you went to my father's hospital bed and you stood in a garden under a mango tree with your father and you did all of it for me. And I am, completely, without a single reservation, with every photograph I have ever taken and every one I am going to take, yours." The room was not quiet anymore. The room was doing what Lagos rooms do when they are moved. A warm specific sound, the collective exhale of 612 people who have just heard something true. Adeyemi in her seat at the head table, small and precise in a magnificent deep gold iro and Bubba and Gel, was not managing her expression anymore. She was simply sitting in it, Kim Song-hyun beside Chief Adeyemi, dark charcoal suit, the gold pocket square, his silver hair, was looking at his son at the altar, and his expression was the garden under the mango tree expression. Just that. Open. Chief Adeyemi had his large hand over Adunula's small hand on the table between them. Neither of them looking at the other. Both looking at their daughter at the altar. If you are watching this and you feel something right now, like this video. Subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment telling me which vow broke you. I need to know. He opened the small box. She looked at the ring, simple, gold, nothing excessive, the ring of a painter who has spent his life choosing what to leave out. She picked it up, turned it, read the inside of the band, the engraving she had not known was there. I did not forget you. She looked up at him. In Korean and Yoruba, he said quietly. My father suggested the Korean. Your father suggested the Yoruba. She looked at him for a long moment. They talked about my ring. They had a planning call, Jaewon said. Last month. Without telling either of us. She looked across the room at both fathers at the head table, both silver-haired, Chief Adeyemi's large hand over Adunula's small hand, Kim Song-hyun watching his son with the open expression. She slid the ring onto his finger. He slid hers onto hers, and she looked down at it, the simple gold band on her long elegant dark finger beside her two existing gold rings, and felt the specific settled quality of something that has found the right place. The officiant said the words. Jaewon cupped her face in both his hands, both palms open and warm against both sides of her deep ebony face, his thumbs at her high cheekbones, the gesture he has always used, the gesture that is entirely his. Her large dark almond eyes closed before he kissed her, just like the first time in the Seoul studio, just like every time since, the eyes closing before the lips meet because some things your body decides before your mind does. He kissed her. In the grand ballroom of Echo Hotel and Suites, Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria, in front of 612 people and the flowers and the candles and both their fathers and her mother and the gold chrysanthemums on the aisle runner and the Afro-Korean train and the camera lens pendant at her throat, he kissed her. She kissed him back. The room exploded. 612 Lagosians and 40 Koreans simultaneously. The sound of it, the music starting, the cheering, the specific warm enormous sound of a Lagos crowd that has just witnessed something and is not keeping quiet about it, rose to the 30-foot ceiling and through the canopy of gold chrysanthemums and bird of paradise flowers and up into the Lagos evening above Echo Hotel and Suites and out over Victoria Island and the Atlantic beyond it. Jaewon broke the kiss and pressed his forehead to hers, the way he always has. Her eyes opened, found his already there, already watching. Hello, wife, he said. Hello, husband, she said. And she smiled, wide and real and unburdened and entirely hers, and the room lost its mind for the second time. What happened after the ceremony was the specific magnificent chaos of a Lagos wedding reception that has decided it is going to be the best Lagos wedding reception anyone in the room has ever attended and has the budget and the will and the caterer and the DJ and the live band and the 612 guests to make good on that decision. The live band, a Lagos Highlife orchestra of 20 musicians, took the stage as the guests moved from the ceremony space into the reception hall and played an opening set that had the Lagos contingent on their feet before the first song was finished. The Korean guests, 40 of them, watching a Lagos Highlife orchestra for the first time, went through the specific journey that every first-time Lagos music audience goes through. Polite listening, then foot tapping, then the involuntary shoulder movement, then full surrender. Park Jun-ho was on the dance floor by the third song. Kim Song-hyun was not on the dance floor but his left foot was moving in a way he was not entirely aware of. The food arrived in waves, the caterer from Ikoyi and the chef from Gangnam having produced a menu that moved between both worlds with the specific confidence of something that knew it was historic. Jollof rice served alongside japchae. A goozy soup with a Korean twist that the Ikoyi caterer had developed over 3 weeks and refused to explain in detail. Suya beside Korean barbecue, the grills set up on the outdoor terrace overlooking the Atlantic where the night air was warm and the city lights of Lagos spread out below and both worlds ate beside each other and found that the combination was better than either alone. Zara danced. With Jaewon first, their first dance, a song she had chosen that moved between a Lagos rhythm and a Korean melody in a way that should not have worked and worked completely, the band playing it live, 612 people watching, both of them in the center of the dance floor and both of them entirely unaware of anyone watching, because when you are in the arms of the person you spent 4 years away from and 18 months building toward, the room disappears. Then with her father, Chief Adeyemi, walking stick set aside for 5 minutes, moving with his daughter across the dance floor with the specific dignity of a Lagos patriarch who dances because his daughter asked him and would not miss this for anything. His large hands, one in hers, one at her waist. His deep-set dark eyes on her face. Hers on his. "Daddy," she said, mid-dance. He said, "thank you for the pendant." He was quiet for a moment. They danced. "A photographer should have a camera at her wedding," he said. "Even if it is very small." She pressed her face against his chest briefly, 1 second, 2, and then straightened. They finished the dance. He walked her back to Jaewon and placed her hand in her husband's hand and held on for 1 moment before releasing. Then he walked back to his table, picked up his walking stick, sat down beside Adeyemi, and said nothing. She poured him water. He drank it, both of them watching their daughter on the dance floor with her husband. At some point in the evening, late, the band playing, the dance floor full, the Lagos night warm and alive around the hotel terrace, Kim Song-hyun asked Adeyemi to dance. He asked quietly, correctly, the way he would have asked in 1996 in a university corridor in Seoul, the specific formality of someone who was raised to ask properly. Adeyemi looked at him for a moment. Then she looked at her husband across the table. Chief Adeyemi, who had seen the asking, met his wife's eyes and nodded once. The nod of a man who is entirely secure and entirely generous and has nothing to prove. Adeyemi stood, took Kim Song-hyun's extended arm, walked with him to the edge of the dance floor. They danced, correctly, formally, the specific arm's length propriety of 2 people who are dancing at their children's wedding and know exactly what that means and exactly what it doesn't mean. But they danced, and the specific thing on both their faces, the private complicated thing that belonged to 1996 and had been carried separately across 2 continents for 28 years, was present in the dance and was finally, quietly, allowed to be present. Not to become anything, just to be acknowledged, just to exist for the length of 1 song and then be set down properly and completely for the last time. Zara saw them dancing from across the room. She watched for a moment. Then she looked at Jaewon beside her. He had already seen. He was watching his father and her mother on the edge of the dance floor with an expression that was older and quieter and more knowing than his usual expression. The expression of a son who understands his father better after everything that has happened and is watching his father do something right. 1 song, Zara said. 1 song, Jaewon confirmed. And then it's done. And then it's only us. She took his hand under the table. He held on. Midnight. The band was playing its final set. The dance floor still full. Lagos does not leave a wedding early. Lagos leaves a wedding when the wedding is finished and sometimes after. But the energy had shifted to the warm amber quality of deep evening, the candles burning low, the flowers still beautiful above, the night air from the terrace coming through the open doors carrying the Atlantic with it. Jaewon found Zara at the terrace edge. She had stepped out for a moment, just a moment, her also okay train gathered in her left arm, her shoes off, barefoot on the hotel terrace tiles, looking out at the Lagos night. The Atlantic below. The city lights spread across the Victoria Island horizon and beyond, the specific gorgeous chaos of Lagos at midnight, alive and enormous and entirely itself. He came and stood beside her. His Durumaji coat still on but the top buttons undone now. His dark hair falling across his forehead from the dancing. His deep brown eyes on the Lagos night. Both of them at the terrace edge. The Atlantic below. The city around them. 612 people inside behind the glass doors. Their whole life ahead. 8 years, she said. 8 years, he confirmed. From a Seoul gallery to a Lagos terrace. Via New York and Abuja and a hospital corridor and a mango tree, he said. She laughed. The real one. The Lagos midnight version of it. Are you happy? He asked. The question from the New York bar. The same words. The different answer. She turned toward him, looked at his face, the dark eyes, the jaw, the paint-stained thumbnail, the man who had argued with her about light and bought her 4 coffees and come to Lagos and put a ring on her finger in front of 612 people with an engraving that said "I did not forget you" in both their languages. "Yes," she said, simply, without qualification, without some days. "Are you?" "Yes," he said, the same simplicity, the same absence of qualification. He put his arm around her. She leaned against him, both of them looking out at the Lagos night, the Atlantic, the city, the warm dark air, while inside behind the glass doors 612 people danced in a room full of chrysanthemums and bird of paradise flowers and the smell of jollof rice and the sound of a Lagos highlife band playing something that sounded like both their worlds simultaneously. A photographer, the hired one, not her, someone else with the camera, came to the terrace doorway and raised the camera. Zara felt it and turned slightly, the instinct of a photographer, the awareness of a lens. But Jaewon did not look at the camera. He was looking at her. The look he had always looked at her with. Entirely unchanged. Present. His. The photographer took the shot. Neither of them moved. The Lagos night went on around them, enormous and warm and entirely indifferent to what had been built in the years it took to get here. The Atlantic below. The city beyond. The flowers above the dance floor inside. The 2 silver-haired men at the head table. The woman in the deep gold Iro and Bubba beside them. The best man on the dance floor who had started the night unable to feel the Lagos rhythm and was now fully surrendered to it. All of it, the 8 years and the 4 cities and the 2 families and the 612 guests and the gold chrysanthemums and the camera lens pendant, reduced, in this moment, to the simplest possible thing. 2 people, a terrace, the Lagos night, holding on. That is the complete story of Zara and Jaewon. If this series meant something to you, like every part, subscribe to this channel, share this with someone who needs a love story right now, and leave a comment below. Tell me, was the wedding everything you hoped for? Tell me your favorite moment from all 4 parts. I am in the comments. I am reading every single one. Thank you for coming on this journey. I will see you in the next story.